Good morning, everyone. Welcome on into Sports Talk with Broads / Coffee with Broads, as I have a nice cup of Starbucks coffee sitting right in front of my face, and I can't wait to devour it, even though there's barely not too much left, considering I've been kind of, getting after it this morning a little bit. But last night, we had a 76ers game in L.A. against the Lakers. No LeBron James. It killed a bit of momentum, no doubt. But just like we saw when the Sixers were shorthanded, there was an opportunity for the Lakers to still compete, to hang in there, because the Sixers, the game before, showed you that without Joel Embiid and James Harden, anything can happen in this league. And I thought I was very proud of the Sixers last night when I went to bed, 1:30 a.m., 2 a.m. Unfortunately, it kicked my ass, and I couldn't do the post-game show right afterwards. So I elected to do it this morning. And to be fair, I put out a Twitter poll on my Twitter page, at Broads81, which you can follow me on Twitter, of course. And the people voted. The people told me, Broads, don't worry about it. Do it in the AM. Do it when you wake up. Do it when you have your cup of coffee. So I said, okay, I got to give the people what they want. That's what we do around here. Now, before we continue, if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Hit that thumbs up button as well. I greatly appreciate all of your support. If you're looking to buy tickets to go to any event, you know what to do. Promo code Broads at SeatGeek's checkout page. Get you $20 off of your purchase. That's eliminating the fees. That's parking. It's a couple beers. Promo code Broads. It's a no-brainer. Then lastly, TikTok at Broads Media. We're incorporating a lot of fun, so make sure you check that out. Okay, here we go. Here we go. I thought this was a team victory. When you look at that fourth quarter stretch specifically, I loved how I can go down the list of every player on this team and point out a moment. Even Furkan Korkmaz made we thought it was a three. They went to break. They came back from break. I thought his foot was on the line at the time, but I saw the graphic put the 3 points added to the scoreboard on display. I'm like, I'll take it. I don't think it's real, but I'll take it any day of the week. It was a big two-pointer, though, to put the Sixers up 7 at the time. So even Furkan got a little bit into the mix as well. But here's what I love during the fourth quarter closing. Now, let's be realistic, though. The Lakers were scoring 2, but we know that this team isn't built to have this lethal defense. They don't have a standard traditional perimeter D because they just get annihilated at will at times. But just like the Phillies offense, you're going to win because you can outscore teams. You're going to win because you can score late and you can run your offense the way that you need to, and that's exactly what happened here. It started with Maxey with one of those beautiful kisses off the glass for 2. Harden ends up going to the rack for 2. Harris with an outstanding catch-and-shoot 3. Big momentum. Kate Scott on the call. She's going electric. Huge shot for Tobias Harris, and he was a professional. I thought he did some things on the defensive side that I loved. He played a very sound game all around, got his teammates going, knew when to be advantageous. Does that even make sense? Use his size on matchups that he liked and he preferred, and he also went to the rim beautifully. So I just love the overall game out of Tobias Harris. And remember when I said that this team, as a third star, is a 3A, 3B type squad? Well, look what happened. Joel gave you 30. Harden was maneuvering through the offense, helping out, running just the traditional point guard role. And oh, by the way, that third quarter exploded and gave you double-digit points. And he had a soft 24, if you will, a quiet 24, but a very efficient 24 at the same time. And don't forget what that third quarter was all about. It was the James Harden show. So, yes, if you have those two, your top dogs performing, what happens if a Maxey and a Tobias combine for an outrageous effort? That's what you saw against the Lakers, and it's a scary sight because of the different ways that they can do it. We're enamored by Tyrese Maxey right now, right? As we should be, because the way that he plays is so unreal. And even the Tyrese Maxey fans at the time of the draft, did they ever truly expect it to look this way? Did they ever think that we would be discussing them on March 24th and go, wow, Maxey's a star? star. Maxey's unreal to this degree. And if you say the answer is yes, I'd call you a liar. And that's okay, though. I'm sure you figured at some point he would blossom into something that we care about. And you saw his skill set at Kentucky. And you realized that there was no March Madness that year, which allowed the Sixers maybe to grab an opportunity to land a kid that would have been on the biggest stage and maybe went higher than he did in the draft. Maybe you liked what he brought to the table, but this quickly, after Ben Simmons pulls the bullshit that he does, that Maxey slides in there, and now he's at this level of performing where in the fourth quarter, he's on another level. In the fourth quarter, he's knocking down shots at a rate that doesn't even make sense in my brain. This level of Maxey, it's crazy. He has the three-point shooting now, which is a ridiculous jump from where he was last year. There was a play where the ball is swinging around the perimeter beautifully, right? And it ends up finding Maxey in the corner. He gives you a fake shot. He moves 1-2 steps in, off the dribble, hits a baseline jumper, but there's no hesitation. It's all within one flow, and it's bang, nothing but net. And then you talk about the speed, which we pretty much vomit out of our mouths about all the time because it's that fast, it's that quick. It's also the angle. So here he is. He can shoot the ball from three now. He can shoot off the dribble off of a pump fake from three to get the defender to bite. He can step in and knock down the mid-range J off the bounce. And then he can fly right by you and find ways to use the glass to get it in. How about when he kisses it so high off the glass? You can't defend that. You can't block that at all. I love what I'm seeing from Maxey. But anyway, to go down the fourth quarter stretch still, just to resurface a little bit, because I know I just got sidetracked talking about Toby and Maxey. Maxey started off with 2 points. Harden also got 2 points, and that Maxey one was attacking the rim. Harris with the catch and shoot to go up 9. Embiid fouled, earned himself to the free throw line. And then Embiid got double-teamed. Harden ended up getting double-teamed. This is on the same exact possession, and there was great passing involved to get it to Matisse Thybulle, who was in the dunker spot for a slam. So you look at Thybulle scoring you points in the fourth quarter. Now, it's because your stars are such weapons that the other team has to throw everything they have at you, and that opens up a Matisse Thybulle underneath the basket there. But you have to take advantage of that situation. I thought the ball movement was fantastic, good reads, and there's a lot of pressure when there's two guys in your face like that, and you got Harden by the half-court line, a little bit inside the half-court line, finds Embiid. Embiid now has it right around the free throw line, a little bit behind. He hits Thybulle. It was just great. And while they were allowing buckets to be scored on the other end throughout that process as well, this team, once again, is built on being able to score more than it is being able to shut you down and stop you. So from that aspect, I'm proud of how everything was dialed up late. My one fear, though, that I did see was it just looks as if Joel Embiid and James Harden are beat the fuck up. You got James Harden going knee to knee, and he's hanging underneath the basket a little bit, and he's down, and he ended up walking off on his own power, and he returned to the game, had a step-back three in the corner. So we did see great play out of James Harden after that. But if you just visually study the body language of Embiid, he ends up getting intentionally fouled, and there was nothing wrong with it. It wasn't egregious or anything along those lines, but instead of going up for an easy bucket or an easy slam, I forget who the defender was at the time, but he ended up pulling his shoulders down a little bit just to stop him from getting that bucket and putting him to the line. And he starts holding his lower back. He's holding his lower back. But it didn't stop him from rising 10,000 feet to block shots, because I thought Embiid at the rim was so damn lethal, and he's blocking shots left and right, which definitely helps the identity of this team. When they have that and they feel more comfortable with Embiid being able to put that on display, it just opens up the game. As well as you saw Maxey be that primary guard, put the ball in his hands, and it's such a change of pace. There's no denying that when Embiid and Harden are on the floor at the same time, specifically in the beginning of games, they're attempting to run an offense through, get Harden going, and he tried to find Thybulle, and Thybulle goes soft as hell up at the rim, ends up getting rejected easily. In the beginning stages, Harden shoot in 1 of 6. It's just a feel-out vibe. The game's so slow. It's so different. Well, in my opinion, I'd probably be running the rock through Embiid at that time. Let him establish post presence, see if they can get some guys in foul trouble, if that messes up the rotations of the opposing coach, and now it throws their entire system out of rhythm instead of, okay, Harden, what do you got for me in that super slow down game? But the reason why I bring that up, while you got to figure out the best way to make that cohesive and to get that start going a little bit smoother out of those two, I would operate more out of Embiid early on instead of the Harden show the way that they have. But the point of bringing that whole concept up is when Maxey now gets it, it's such a quick change. It's such a different pace. Harden plays his style, and he'll attack, and he'll go into contact and all of that, right? He'll draw fouls. His shooting is off, though. There's no denying that he's not electrifying at the same clip from distance as he has been in his career. I don't know if that's a hamstring problem. I don't know if that's a confidence issue right now, which someone like James Harden, you don't think he ever loses his confidence. It's just about keep shooting, keep firing. You've been doing this for a long time. It's eventually going to start falling for you. You will be just okay. There's a part of that with James Harden. See, he falls in that category of I'm never afraid that it's going to be to the point where he just forgets how to do it. Although I'm sure all Sixers fans listening right now go, Broads, every time someone comes to Philadelphia, they lose their power. And I would argue that's not true at all. Look at Bryce Harper. He just won the NL MVP. Look at Zach Wheeler. The New York Mets had him and never anticipated a Zach Wheeler effort where he's in Cy Young conversations and realistically got boned in winning it, and they wouldn't have let go of that. But then what's the argument there? Broads, the Mets met. So, of course, if there's one team that will have a disaster out of any other MLB team, if they are making a move with the Philadelphia Phillies or losing someone to the Philadelphia Phillies, I should say, it would be the Mets. I guess I really don't have an argument against that one because I can't stand that blue and orange and that crap organization that's ran by Uncle Stevie right now. But I digress. Harden will be okay, I believe, long-term. He finds other ways to impact the game. I was talking to one of my buddies last night while the game was going on, and he mentioned Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook, to me, and at this point everyone's on the same page, he's a bum. He can't shoot at all. At all. His shots are like line drives. My fiance makes fun of me all the time because when I'm playing beer pong, my shots just go zip right at the top of the cup and ends up hitting. She goes, how does that even go in? How does any of this make sense? Your shots, the angle, the trajectory, it should never be going in that way. I feel the same way when I'm watching Russell Westbrook play basketball. He's taking threes. And the funny part is all these teams dare him to shoot it. And we would live and die with Russell Westbrook taking garbage shots nonstop. And he still takes them when there's an obvious lane to maybe attack the basket. You even heard Allah say it a few times. What's he doing? Look at all that space to just go towards the paint and finish at the rim. But instead, he's taking the shots. And you can hear the angst in the fans. It's very similar to what we've heard in Philadelphia when Tobias Harris has his struggles. But he did not have struggles last night. He had a monster slam, a monster jam, a monster alley-oop, too, where he got up and threw it down with authority. I'm like, okay, Toby. I love that version of Tobias Harris. Unfortunately, we just don't get it at the enough rate that we would need it to. It would be nice. It would be so nice if that's something that we could consistently rely on. But as much as he'll throw this in there, I can't lie. Majority of the time, it's the complete opposite, and it's the devastating Tobias games. And there has to be a way to maybe get it out of him. And I will admit this with the Tobias Harris thing. There has clearly been a conscious effort of catch and shoot threes. I think he's doing everything in his power to do what he is supposed to do to fit within this team. Sometimes it's just a lack of making the shots, which I could live with. There's a difference between making shots, missing shots as part of a breakdown after a game, and then changing your entire style. There was actually a night a couple games ago where instead of playing Tobias Harris basketball, he changed his mentality completely, and he was passing the ball sort of like Ben Simmons. Remember in years past, and I hate to do this to you all so early in the morning on a Thursday, when Claude Giroux makes his Florida Panthers debut. This is supposed to be a happy day for all of us Flyers fans, all of us Philadelphia sports fans, fans that we're about to witness the Claude Giroux era and the Claude Giroux start of the playoff run that we should be emotionally tied to, because now we have a team competing for the Stanley Cup playoffs, and that is the Florida Panthers. This is supposed to be a good day for us, but I'm going to bring up horrible memories, and that's the fact that Ben Simmons would have the ball, and he'd kind of dunk it off like that. He'd just throw it off. He'd be like, yeah, I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want anything to do with this. You can have it, please. Get it away from me. I saw Tobias do that in other games, and there's a big difference when he plays like that and then missing and making shots. And maybe it's not a good game from Toby, but you can't change your entire way of playing. And I remember hearing Tim Legler say this with Anthony Gargano over the last couple of weeks when they played the Brooklyn Nets, and it was that ugly, horrible performance that we all want to forget as well. He saw a little bit of James Harden shrinking up, mixing up his style of play, not playing James Harden basketball, being timid. And to be fair, if I'm being objective, I did see that at times as well. But it's just a one-game sample size compared to saying that James Harden could never do it. Because when I dive back to big games for James Harden, while there might be a game against San Antonio that everybody mentions when some guys were out and maybe there was a missed chance for the Rockets to do something bigger, he's got a lot of insane playoff performances as well. He's got a lot of great playoff performances as well. So it's not as if he can't ever have big shining times. But come on. We're watching this team play. This is a different version of James Harden than the 5-year version of James Harden. But that you shouldn't have changed your mentality when he made the trade. You knew that, right? Did I expect a 32-point-per-game James Harden? Did I expect a James Harden from 5 years ago? No. I expected more of a point guard-oriented James Harden who can still score and still be aggressive, but he's not a 30-plus point per game guy anymore. I do feel, though, that he needs to put his foot on the gas, because when he is willing, he does still have that in him. Look at that third quarter. I need that third quarter mindset more than what we are getting. Now, I do have a $10 donation coming in the chat from Gerard. It would be nice to get that Tobias Harris more often that we got last night. I agree with you, Gerard, and thank you so much for donating $10. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for all your support. It would be something different. This would change how we feel about the basketball team, no doubt about it, where right now Maxey's helping out close in the fourth quarters, and he's kind of got that killer attitude. And if you heard him post-game, which I don't know how many people stayed up that late to check it all out, he was talking about, and it's kind of cliche, but hearing it from him, it felt raw. It felt real. When you hear Nick Castellanos, and I'm doing a lot of referencing around other sports teams today. I don't know why this is happening, but it's just happening in natural flow of the convo. When you hear Schwarber and Castellanos speak, well, I thought Castellanos for the Phillies, he was real, but they gave you cheesesteaks, and I want to win, and I'm here to compete. And, you get cliche answers at times from guys, and it just is what it is, and you move on. With Tyrese, he gave you a cliche thing, but it was real, and you know that it meant a lot to him on where he is today. So I'm going to paraphrase, but it was about how he got to where he is now. And he told a story about back in the day in the gym, and his dad used to tell him that it's all about the work that happens behind closed doors. It's the work that happens when nobody sees you, and then it will naturally happen on the floor in front of thousands, where it will tell the story. When you perform the way that you do when the lights are on and everybody's sitting there watching you, they then know, oh, he does it all when no one's watching. The correlation is automatically there, and instead of having to show everyone what you're doing when you're actually training, the training speaks for itself in game. And I get it. It's kind of like, okay, congratulations. That's the most basic knowledge in the history of the world, and I'm sure a billion people live by that philosophy. But it's different with Tyrese because of the insane jump that we are referencing, the three-point shooting, and how much we're like last year, it wasn't good. It was a 30% clip. Now at this point, just to look it up so we can have the actual numbers in front of our face here, and sometimes the stats from last night aren't necessarily in there, but I think for this purpose it is. Regardless, his three-point shooting now is 42, almost 42%. 41.7. Last year it was 30. And his fourth quarter execution. And his free throws. And the fact that he's getting fouled more. And he knows how to play he's so smart. And he's developed so quickly. I love me some Tyrese Maxey. What else went down in this game? Tobias' stat line was 25 and 7. He was plus 20 on the night. I talked about how I'm a little bit nervous of the players, the top players. I'd be sugarcoating it to say I'm not looking at their body language right now and how beat up they look beat up. To be fair, there's only a handful of games left in the NBA season. There's a lot of players that feel a certain type of way when they get this deep into the action. There's a lot of frustration that boils at some point in a season. Every season has their ups and downs. The problem is when you get banged up at some point, this is kind of what it is, and you have to battle through it, and sometimes that can cost you. At the same time, though, Joel Embiid's still giving you 30. He's still blocking a bunch of buckets. He's giving you a Hakeem Olajuwon footwork shimmy shakes where I'm thinking, because I've seen it a billion times already, that's an obvious go to his right. Because I've seen him in that circumstance go to his right a billion times. He got his shimmy shake. He'll go to the right. He'll kind of utilize his body to either block out the defender with the left side of his body, scoop it towards the glass, or he'll turn around and kind of do like a Kobe Bryant jumper where he squares his body, but he's fading away to the right at the same time. He hit you with the left. So now he's going baseline. He's got the defender guessing and wondering which way he's going baseline fade away Jay after the Hakeem Olajuwon shimmy. I don't know what you are supposed to do if you're the Lakers at that point. What is Dwight Howard going? He doesn't know. Nobody knows. No one has the response that you're looking for. Even on an Embiid that hovers his back a bit and always holding his lower back. It's in the back of my mind. I'm not going to pretend it's not. I'm always open and honest about things with everyone involved who listens to the show, and I can't thank you enough for all your crazy and wild support. But it is real for me that when I'm seeing this team, I start to cringe when I see the fact that they're hobbling away. And look, I've played sports and I hate that. I hate ever tying my life to a professional sports life. But I think if you played at a certain point, you know what it's like at your respected sport, at your respected level, what a full season does for you. And just to put it in perspective here, college hockey was about, 20? It was probably about 30-game season. A 30-game season of Friday, Saturday. So that was your schedule. My freshman year, I ended up having surgery. I missed a bunch of the year. But I ended up coming back from surgery and finishing out the season playing 8 straight games or so. And I'll tell you, after 8 games, my body felt like I was going to die. I'm walking to class with the limp, right? I got the limp. I got my backpack on. It looks like I'm just hobbling away. So we all know what it's like. That's 8 games. 8 NCAA college hockey games. Could you imagine what a 7'2" man feels like after this long in the NBA? And now he had that much damage done to his body in the beginning of the year because one Australian loser didn't feel like competing with him because he just quit on everybody? And we're demanding 40 points over and over again. That's just to lay it out on, holy hell, I could only imagine what he's going through. But if I'm the Sixers, just like they did the other night, I'm starting to analyze, is it worth playing him on certain games? I'm looking ahead at the schedule and wondering, is it time to maybe, dip it off a little and say, hey, Joel and James, we're in a fine spot. Now, the difference now is you're starting to look at matchups. What's going to happen with the Heat? What's going to happen with the Bucks? Where are you going to line up? Who are you going to play if that's the case? And how much that matters to escape certain teams, especially because is Kyrie Irving going to be available now? I'm more of a let the chips fall how they lie, sort of like golf. Play it as the ball lies. But if I can maneuver around playing in Chicago, playing in Cleveland, looking at some of these other opponents instead of a Brooklyn Nets, yeah, I'll be honest with you, I would definitely do that. Now, speaking of the Miami Heat, how about Jimmy Butler and Eric Spoelstra last night? You could see Eric Spoelstra say, you want me to fight you? And then Haslam comes in there and goes, I'll fuck you up. Yeah, whatever the hell he's screaming at him. He's going to kick his ass. Crazy. But the way Eric Spoelstra said it after the game, and I actually went to the Miami Heat press conference afterward. I wanted to hear what the hell and Eric Spoelstra says after that, and he just brings it back to that's the culture we have here. This is going to make us more together as a unit. I'm just fascinated to hear the tone after something like that occurs. It does happen in pro sports. That's the nature of these athletes that are wired differently. At the same time, though, Jimmy Butler trying to call out Eric Spoelstra to fight on the bench is pretty insane. And by the way, he's not shooting very well from three this year. I want to lay this out there because maybe the answer is both options stunk because we're not satisfied with Tobias Harris, and we shouldn't be satisfied with Tobias Harris at all. But Jimmy Butler, he had injury problem. He had to get back. He played 50 games so far this year. He's shooting 20% from three. I like Jimmy Butler. I'm not going to tell you I would hate to have Jimmy Butler. I think that there's an edge and an attitude to Jimmy Butler in terms of, though, like the big money and Elton Brand and where the money went. That Jimmy Butler contract, though, it's not as if that alternative was a no-brainer. Like I said, maybe the best option, now that we're seeing how it played out, was to sign neither of them, to not sign Jimmy Butler to that big deal, to not sign Tobias Harris to that big deal. I know you were handcuffed and you had to bring one of them back. You made those moves. You acquired them at the deadline. You went for the both feet in style push. Jimmy Butler shooting 20%. Matisse Thybulle and Furkan Korkmaz are way more electric from three. Let me repeat that. Furkan Korkmaz and Matisse Thybulle are way more electric than Jimmy Butler is shooting the basketball from distance. And that is crazy. A couple more donations. Jose with $5 saying the Celtics are playing lights out, but could that be good or a bad thing hitting their peak this early? Sixers have yet to come close to hitting their stride. They're definitely not playing the same level of oomph as the Boston Celtics are. At the same time, about hitting their stride early, this or that. Remember, there was a time a couple years ago where the Sixers went on a win streak into the playoffs. There's almost a dead time. As soon as the playoffs start, it's a new brand. It's a new life. It's a new level of intensity. And thank you, Jose, for the $5, where, to me, it's not that there's nothing to momentum, but I'm not going to put so much stock on, wow, they played the back half of the season extremely well. That automatically means they're going to have a ton of success in the postseason. Because a lot of those wins, Charlotte, Atlanta, the Knicks, a Milwaukee Bucks, a Miami Heat. Then you see an Orlando Magic. And then you see a Cleveland Cavaliers. Where, how does that relate to a 7-game series against the Brooklyn Nets? How does that relate to, another situation that is you're seeing a dogfight for 7 games and you're flipping back and forth on the on the road, at home, on the road? It's a totally different atmosphere. So from that level, it's so different. It's a different type of beast. Wade, with a $3 Canadian donation, as I'm rounding up, is Joel Embiid an MVP a sure thing? I mean, to me, he is, in my eyes, but that doesn't mean that that's how it's going to necessarily play out in the overall grand scheme of things. I'm going to open up my DraftKings Sportsbook app now and see where it is with the MVP odds. I haven't looked in a long period of time, to be honest with you, and I've mentioned this a ton of times on the cast. I don't really care whether that's an outlier thought or not. So he is the favorite by minus 160. Jokic is plus 135. And then there's really some long shots from there. Giannis is plus 800. Luka is plus 3,000. Ja Morant is plus 3,000. It really comes down to Embiid, Jokic. Giannis is a plus 800. That's definitely out there. So Embiid minus 160. At this point, according to DraftKings, he does have the biggest opportunity to do so. And, sometimes whether it's right or wrong, and I do think that the answer to this year is Embiid. I thought the answer to last year was Jokic. But sometimes, and we saw this with Sean Couturier of the Flyers, there's another reference around the Philadelphia sports scene this morning. After so many times of someone being involved, They end up getting the nod of the Jokic won it. Now Embiid's doing something outrageous. Hey, it's time for Embiid. Not that I feel that's the case this year. I think if Embiid gets it done this year, I actually think the NBA got it right, where Jokic probably should have deserved it last season. Embiid, continuing to play this way, deserves it this season. They didn't screw it up. They didn't botch it. I think that it actually makes a lot of sense on how the NBA would handle it if that's how it ends up going, and I would be very proud of what Joel Embiid does. I do want to tell you about WinView. I also want to tell you more about Maxey and more about the lead that evaporated, because there was a time where the Sixers were up double digits, and with a blink of an eye, it went bye-bye. Shocker. Surprise. Anyone? No. Let me tell you about WinView, by the way. WinView is the nation's leading sports predictor, allowing you to compete in pregame or live contests against other people, not the house. You answer questions about each game before it begins, or you play in quarter-long contests so you can get your viewing experience to the next level. I will give you an example on how WinView works. You open up the WinView app, which you can download. The link is down below in the description, winview.tv/Broads. Sign up using that link. It will help me out tremendously. The Phoenix Suns take on the Denver Nuggets, okay? So the way this works is it's you versus someone else. Whoever answers more questions correctly end up taking home the pot. There are free plays as well, so it's more just for fun, and you can get your feet wet and then realize, holy hell, I could win a lot of money. And if you see how much money I win on this damn app, you'd be going, holy shit, I got to download it right now. Here's some examples. Some of them are basic. Some of them are a little bit more out there. But who wins the game? Will both teams combine to score 230 more points? Will Jokic record a triple-double? Will Devin Booker score at least 30 points? Will Denver attempt 40 or more threes in the entire game? Who will commit more turnovers, Denver or Phoenix? Will DeAndre Ayton score 22 and record 12 or more rebounds in the game? Will Phoenix make 18 or more of their free throws? So these are kind of the questions. It's super fun. It's different. It's not just your basic way of betting. It's not just your traditional Vegas and your sports books. It adds a little bit of flair. It adds a little bit of flavor. And you can answer 3 questions right, and your buddy only answers 1, and you're going to win. So you still get a chance to take home the cash, even if you don't necessarily knock it out of the park. And that's why it even makes it that much more entertaining for sure. I want to give Tom an appreciation little how do you do here. Thank you so much, Tom, for the $2 donation. I greatly appreciate it. Any chance that Doc Rivers gets fired this offseason? If it gets first round loss territory, obviously, if it gets second round and you're getting abused, I think that there's going to be a conversation. This is the problem with my Doc Rivers thoughts, and I appreciate the question, Tom. You didn't play all year with $30 million sitting on the bench. Your team was in a great position. Why? Doc Rivers had a lot to do with that. Look at Tyrese Maxey. Doc Rivers and Sam Cassell have a lot to do with that. It's also Tyrese Maxey and the will and the determination, and he's going to be a stud regardless because it's in him. But Sam Cassell and Doc Rivers did do a lot to get the most out of him. Same with Joel Embiid. Get the most out of Joel Embiid. So there's definitely layers to where, you didn't have this perfect ride all season with how Ben Simmons handled it. It was a mess. And I don't know if a lot of coaches are able to get the same out of their players while you're going through something so toxic the way the 76ers did. Right now, they're flirting in that second seed and battling with the Bucks, battling with the Heat. They're up there as one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. Playoff basketball, different than regular season basketball. That's the counter argument that I'll give. And it's unacceptable to not get out of that second round when you have the firepower that you do. Here's the other side of the coin. And you're not just going to keep a guy just to keep a guy because the alternative might not be well. We screamed Brett Brown sucked. Now you're screaming Doc Rivers has no idea what he's doing. Aren't we going to be doing the same thing about the next guy? No, I don't love Doc Rivers. I don't love a lot of guys, though, because it comes down to the players. See, I like how I'm mentioning player development side of things, which obviously Sam Cassell, and, there's just a veteran presence on the sidelines that I think goes a long way. I'm talking about keeping this locker room cohesive. That's really what the NBA head coach is all about. So I'm talking about off the court, those style of things. When things get really ugly, there's a black cloud that's really focusing around the Camden facility because of how brutal Ben Simmons was. It's all the little things that really help this team stay together and grow while that was occurring. That's what I'm giving the most credit to. And then giving guys like Maxey, that identity and that growth. And as I mentioned before, I told you about WinView, which once again, the link is down below in the description. Maxey in the second with the ball in his hands, just in general as well. But Maxey in the second had a great pass to Furkan Korkmaz underneath the basket for a 2. He had a steal at midcourt and then patience. So here he is where he sees that he can attack, but he kind of waits a little bit. He uses his body to protect the ball as he's dribbling, and then he realizes, I'm going to go. I'm going for it. So it's a steal. It's a patience to let things develop, and then it's, oh, damn, here's my moment. I'm going to go full speed. He does and gets an easy 2 high off the glass where a defender can't match that and can't block it at all. And then, of course, he had that fake shot that I mentioned from the three-point line. Took a step inside, off the dribble, off the bounce, no hesitation, nothing but net with the baseline J. So, there's just so many keys to this, and I do feel that Doc Rivers and them helped him get to the point that he's at now. But also, it doesn't happen. You can't pry that out of someone. If Maxey didn't have the internal fire that he does, we're not even having this conversation. If you want to move on from Doc Rivers if they fail and don't get to the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm okay with that. So I guess to answer your question, and thank you once again for the donation, it comes down to if they don't get to the Eastern Conference Finals and it's still another second-round exit and it's a first-round exit, God forbid, well then of course, I'm never tied to a Doc Rivers or to a Brett Brown. I'm never tied to any of these guys. But of course, context matters. Is it because Matisse Thybulle sucked? Is it because Embiid sucked? Is it because Harden sucked? Like, why did you lose? Was it Doc Rivers sucked? Or was it the fact that your players sucked? Because if your players suck, I don't care who you have on the sidelines, you're not going to win. So I need to see context play out fully. It's like Brett Brown. Brett Brown in that series against Nick Nurse when they ended up losing in Game 7 on the road. If you go back and look at the adjustments made by Brett Brown did everything he possibly could based off of the situation at hand. Having a point guard that doesn't shoot and getting new acquisitions like Tobias and having to implement that with a Jimmy Butler. And that's not to say he was perfect, because he wasn't perfect. But from an overhead view, the bird's eye view of it all, Brett Brown did a lot of things that made a lot of sense in that series, and it ended up being where Joel Embiid wasn't ready to win yet. Ben Simmons is a problem in the half court. Jimmy Butler, you got to ask a guy to go get me a bucket when you're playing 4-on-5, and it ends up not being smooth, but that's how the NBA works. Hey, Kevin Durant, go get me a bucket. Hey, Embiid, go get me a bucket. Hey, Jimmy, go get me a bucket. Go watch it. Hey, Middleton, go get me a bucket. Hey, Giannis, go get me a bucket. Kobe, go get me a bucket. That's how it is. Brett Brown strategically in that series, it just came down to not being ready to win yet. Not knowing how to win it. You needed that to get to a point where Embiid is where he's at now. But hopefully Embiid's there now. Closing out. If you're in those moments again in the fourth quarter on the road in a playoff series, but the seeding's pretty high this year, so let's say you're at home and you need him big time. Fourth quarter, 3 minutes to go, back and forth action. Date back to that loss when you weren't ready to win yet. Make that part of your journey. And then in your post-game show after you win and the Wells Fargo Center erupts, go, I remember losing to Kawhi. I wasn't going to let that happen again. I wasn't going to allow it. But going back to the head coach, I have to see how it plays out, because a lot of this in the NBA is players more than anything else. DeAndre Jordan, how about his effort last night? He can't defend a pick and roll to save his damn life. The problem is, if you look at his box score, he had a slam, he had a couple slams. The box score doesn't scream as terrible as he is on that pick and roll. That pick and roll defense might be the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It's like he's moving in quicksand. He can't move at all. He finished with 9 points, 4 of 6, 7 boards. So, it wasn't the most tragic experience in the world out of DeAndre Jordan. Pick and roll defense, though, whew. I think it's time to try something different. I don't think trying something different is the difference in this team winning a championship or not. But can you try different concepts? Right now, yeah. Yeah, I do. It ended up working out, though, and this was a good team win overall. Niang can't overplay what he does with those threes. I actually thought that there were moments, and I tweeted this out, I don't know where you would be. Sorry, had the little ESPN thing going on there. I don't know where you would be in that game, especially the first quarter, if Niang wasn't cooking. If Niang wasn't drilling his shots. Top of the three, see the ball swing to him, shoots it in rhythm, nothing but net. And I just feel when Niang gets going and when Niang is cruising, there is nothing sweeter than seeing him with that energy and with that intensity for sure. So you saw more Furk. You thought you would, honestly. You saw some Shake Milton, even though I don't think it was anything crazy. I just exited out of the tab, so I don't know why I did that. Shake ended up with, we're on Thursday. Yesterday was Wednesday. How many minutes? He played 20. Okay. I was going to say, I thought he played around 15 off the top of my head. Played 20 minutes, only made one shot. He was -9. You got bench scoring, though, which helps. Matisse Thybulle played 22 minutes, 4 points, had personal foul, 3 personal fouls, and sometimes he's maddening defensively. I never know. I never, ever, 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 ever know what I'm getting from Thybulle. But I'm just pointing out that now you saw Shake again. You saw Furkan again. I'm sure Doc is going to give them time over these next handful of games to figure out what they're going to be able to provide you in the postseason if you're Shake Milton, and can Furkan squeeze in for spacing? I hope to God the answer is no. I'm not falling into any sort of Furkan Korkmaz trap. I'm just looking at it from a Doc Rivers angle and knowing that he's searching for answers and he's desperate because guys like Thybulle can't space the floor. So when that's the case, you really got to try everything. And I feel you already know the answer on Furkan, but once again, I'm just putting my feet in the Doc Rivers shoes and looking at it from his view. I will open up the phones if anyone does want to call in and get their opinions on what we saw last night. I know it's a weird time. Normally record as soon as the game's over, but it was like 1 a.m. and I was beat, and the people voted on the Twitter poll that they wanted me to do it in the morning. So I'm here for the people. If you want to call in, you can. I know the chat is kind of taken off here. We can always just communicate through the chat if that's not the case, and I completely understand. I'm sure you guys have all noticed at this point, got a broadcasting studio headset. Just trying out some versatility. I still have my traditional boom mic, which is sitting right in front of me. So I still got my traditional boom mic going. But just to try something different, I can always kind of do some things outside the studio with the headset. Let's go to the phones, though, shall we? Let's go to Mike this morning. What's up, Mike? Hello, unless this is not Mike.
Oh, this is Mike.
What's up, Mike?
Much. I have 2 questions, man. You
okay,
know me.
hit me.
Both are Philly related. So first question is, well, what you said about the playoffs. Yes, Sixers have had problems in the playoffs. I totally agree with what you're saying there. We have a history of just making plays that are either dumb or just don't make sense, and then we have, like, terrible blow-ups, you know.
Yes. So what is your question in regards to the playoffs?
If you're Doc Rivers, do you try everything on the table? Everything.
No, not in the playoffs. See, at that point, I'll live and die with I'm not going very deep on my bench. See, I don't want to live and die with Furkan Korkmaz. So if you ask the question, do you try everything in the playoffs? No, I'm not living and dying with Furkan. I'd rather live and die with my 8-man rotation and push my starters and do something like that than go with someone who hasn't been able to give you anything for the last 6 months other than the first month of the season. So there are limitations when you ask me how far am I willing to go with experimenting. There's certain guys where, I'm sorry, if I lose, I'll go down swinging because I'm overplaying Harden and Embiid than sneaking in a Furkan Korkmaz or something along those lines. So there is a limitation on that for me.
And my other question is, how do you feel about this Phillies team, man? I know a little off topic, but how do you feel about this Phillies team, man?
I'm feeling pumped, Mike. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to call in. And I mean, I've been screaming. I'm watching every spring training's pitch. I can't stop. I'm glued. I can't wait today for spring training. I woke up today and said, I can't wait for the Phillies to tweet out the lineup. You got Didi leading off. You're going to see some of these bats. You got to see Kyle Schwarber yesterday, who roped one to right field. Unfortunately, you had the shift in play. The exit velocity was insane. That should be a base hit. I'm stoked for the Phillies, and I can't wait. Castellanos had his chance to speak yesterday. So all around, I'm ready to lose my damn mind for Phillies baseball for sure. Yes, a little off base, but yes, stoked for Phillies baseball. That's for sure. Back to the phones we go. Good morning. You're on Broads Media. Hello. You have to mute the YouTube stream and then talk on your phone.
It is muted now.
Oh,
you got me?
Yes, I got you. What's going on, man?
How's it going, bro?
It's going well.
Do you think Harden is back next year? And are you fearful that they match up with the Nets in the first round?
Oh, look who it is, my friend. Thank you so much for calling in. I think that James Harden is going to be back next year, yes. Yes, I do. I think James Harden will be back, and Daryl Morey doesn't make that move for a superstar type of player and then just let him leave afterwards. I do see that there is some breaking down involved with James Harden, but it's still James Harden. And if you can find ways to maneuver through Tobias Harris and bring in a Bradley Beal and make a splash like that, where now James Harden is added to a player like Beal and Embiid, and it's not, hey, James Harden, go win me a championship by yourself with Robert Covington. Hey, you're on the Rockets and you have to go beat a Golden State Warriors team. See, you're not demanding the same thing out of Harden when you change the way that it's all being portrayed, because you are moving around pieces to make it different. James Harden's in a different spot in his career, and I think Daryl Morey understands that, so that's why he's going to push buttons around James Harden where it's not the same level that he was, where he was putting up 30 in a year and averaging that. And that's okay, because if he's more 24 and 13, 24 and 12, if these are the type of numbers that we're seeing on a night-to-night basis, but Embiid has that scoring. Maybe he lacks in the scoring, better in the facilitation role, but you add better scoring around Harden. He doesn't need to be that same tier of scoring. So yes, I feel, to answer your question, that James Harden will be back. You don't make that type of move without trying to, make this more of a 2-3 year window with Harden and Embiid together, and then figure out what you're going to do. And Maxey, and Maxey, I can't just forget about Tyrese Maxey. Are you kidding me? So you get a Beal, you get a Maxey. I know I'm hypothetically speaking here about a trade in the offseason, but Daryl Morey is no bum, and he, I feel, is going to be able to make something happen and kind of, make a bit of a splash, if you will. Was there a second part to that question? I forget. Was there a second part to that question? I'm sorry. I probably cut the caller off a little bit short. I like to go a little bit longer. I don't like, we got the, see, I got my boom mic now hanging out a little bit. I forget if there was a second part to that question. I'm trying to think about it. Will James Harden be back? Yeah, I think the answer was yes to that. Sixers finally looking like they're finding their groove together. Everyone's eating, including bum-ass Toby. Well, see, that's a little aggressive, David. I don't think we need to go bum-ass Toby. I don't think he's a bum, but... that over-the-shoulder pass up to Embiid, down to Tease for the slam was good ball. They had good ball all throughout that fourth quarter stretch. They did a lot of good things down that stretch. Oh, yes, there was a second part to the question. The Nets and the matchup with the Brooklyn Nets. Am I scared of that? I don't want to see Kevin Durant. If you're asking me my preferred matchups, it ain't the Brooklyn Nets. If I can slide through without seeing Kevin Durant, if I could slide through without seeing a Kyrie Irving, who now with New York and changing the way that they're kind of handling things, if there's a chance to not see them, yeah, I prefer not seeing them. Does that mean the Sixers can't win a series? No, I'm not saying that. No, not necessarily. I know what happened the last time they saw each other, but the way I laid this out, and I will do it again just in case you forget, if you go back, now that we're going to reference that Sixers-Raptors series again, I'm going to go through, not the box scores necessarily and dive deep into those, but if you look at the overall 2019 Eastern Conference Finals series, Game 1, the Raptors won by 13 on their home floor. Then the Sixers respond in Game 2 and win by 5. Then the Sixers return home and win by 21 points. Then the Raptors in Game 5 win by 5. You see my point? You win by 13. You lose by 5. You lose by 20 plus. You win by 5. Each game is outrageously different. So just because the Sixers got blown out and it was one of the worst losses we see, and there was so much anticipation for what was going to happen, and there was so much excitement for that game, and there was so much emotion involved because of Ben Simmons returning on the floor in that stupid Louis Vuitton shirt. Although I did like those Jordan 4 Lightnings. They popped. I want a pair. I don't have a pair. I need a pair. But everything was so invested into that game that we put so much into it. Just because that in a 7-game series, that could happen once, but then the Sixers win the game before. So the Sixers win Game 1 by 8. Then they get blown out Game 2. Then in Game 3, it comes down to the wire. Say they lose by 1. But then in Game 4, they win by 6. Like, blowouts happen. It's a 7-game series. If you get blown out in one game, it doesn't mean that that's how it's definitely going to play out for the entire series as a whole. Where are we here? Kyrie scares me. Yeah, Kyrie's a baller, man. I mean, you see it when he goes off for 50, for that ball handling skills, the ability to drive, the ability to make his shots. He's so crafty, and he's so skilled, and he's so silky smooth. It's so difficult to stay in front of him because he's got so much in his bag. And when he does it, it's almost a reminder because he's just been unavailable for you. And he's not been a guy that you could rely on because he's not willing to get vaccinated, although that seems to be changing now. I'm looking at Twitter to see if anything kind of happened, although I'm sure the chat would have been more vocal about it if something did pop off in this crazy world. Thank you, Gilbert. I appreciate that. Gilbert loves the analysis. Well, I love that you're hanging out here and kicking it with me. I did realize that, considering I just went off for about 50 minutes on the game and speaking about the Sixers, I have not taken a sip of my coffee, and now it's probably at a temperature that is not to my liking as I'm staring right at it. Not that much left. I'm going to have to make another cup of Joe, of course, but yes, that is where I am at with the coffee. Now, totally out of the sports conversation as a whole, I made this. I think I might have showed people before. For you Drake fans out there, I made this myself. Now, my fiance is big into crafts. She can actually draw. She can actually paint. She actually drew and painted the canvas that's sitting behind me, by the way. I don't know if anybody knows that, but she did that, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and it's been the background ever since. But she enjoys going to ceramics, doing things like this. I know it's off topic a little bit, but it's one of my favorite mugs. Now, if you know the Drake album, look at this. If you're reading this, I need more Joe. Now, that's just excellent execution out of me. And the reason why I'm so great at this, for this specific concept, look how shitty your handwriting needs to be. If it had to be clean, if it had to be crisp, I'm done. I'm done. I'm screwed. No, I'm able to be sloppy. And it's great when Broads is able to be sloppy, right? Background since day one. Yeah, that is correct. It has been my background since day one. Although, who knows? Maybe we have something in the works to kind of spice things up a little bit or to change some things a little bit. I don't know. I like trying to show off some versatility, get some different things going. That's why we got the whole microphone setup going on today. I'm excited about it. But anyway, with that being said, that's where I'm at with the 76ers today. Oh, there are a couple little key points. I guess this could be our... How do I want to phrase these? The side notes, the sidebars, the little keynotes to the side, the minor talking points, I guess. How about Stanley Johnson in that first quarter? Double-digit points. Where the hell did he go? Did he just forget how to play the sport of basketball? Did he just forget what he was doing? Because it just seemed that there was no such thing as Stanley Johnson anymore after that explosion that went off in the first quarter. He was knocking down, but 5 of 5, couldn't miss, red hot. If you're playing NBA 2K, he's got the red hot thing underneath of his firing, when he's shooting and he's firing nonstop, he's got the red. He's hot. He's on fire. Malik Monk had some buckets. I actually, if I'm going to be real with everyone, if you go back to that draft with Malik Monk, I thought Malik Monk was going to be nasty. I believed in Malik Monk. I wanted Malik Monk. I thought that he would be a good player. And I get it. He's having a better season this year and seemed to maybe have turned it around a little bit. But turning it around from where he was, it's not to the level that I thought he'd ever be. We're looking at to turn it around the same way we look at Matisse Thybulle. When Matisse Thybulle makes a three, we almost act as if it's a toddler that's 6 years old standing up for the first time. Oh my God, Matisse, right? When a baby walks for the first time. When a baby's hitting something like hungry hippo and the baby's smacking the hunger. This is amazing. That's how we feel when Matisse Thybulle makes a three. I almost feel that's what we do with Malik Monk right now when we talk about his season. It's the fact that it was, we're giving him that, hey, congratulations. He's averaging 13 points per game. What's he shooting from three this year? 39%. It's been better over the last couple of years, but still, I still think that's where we're at with it. Well, that's a little harsh. Maybe that's a little harsh, but you still get my point. With that being said is never a phrase I want to hear from you. Why? You always think I'm going to... The reason why the with that being said is mentioned the way that it is because I like to look at all angles. So if I'm going to give you something and give you a feel or a thought or the way that I understand it or the way that other people are speaking about things, but I don't necessarily agree, with that being said, it's all just about giving you the perspective of all angles. So I like this, but with that being said, blah, 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 blah. Or there's a lot of people who feel this way about something and feel this way about James Harden, but with that being said, I see it this way, or something along those lines. It's just, it's not always in a negative way. I don't know why you never want to see it or never want to hear it, because it could technically be good. There could be so many awful things being mentioned and so many awful, horrible reasons. Although, with that being said, when things are being discussed in a negative way that I don't agree with, I normally just come on here and scream. I normally just turn red in the face and start spitting everywhere. So, a lot easier said than done. Listening to the talking heads, nobody believes in the Sixers anymore. Well, that's foolish. James Harden was a bad trade. How was it a bad trade? In what world do you look at James Harden as a bad trade? Ben Simmons isn't even going to play again this season. Who knows the next time he touches the floor legitimately? Andre Drummond was a walking UFA. And Seth Curry is a nice player. You don't think that James Harden is better than what you gave up? That's crazy. See, this is what disgusts me. Now, in terms of the talking heads, they have an agenda. The talking heads, they have an agenda on what they want to do. They want to create controversy. They know how we react in this city. So they kind of get it. And you know what? You can, if you wanted to make the argument that they're thin and you don't believe in their bench, there's ways to spin logically on why you don't feel comfortable about the Sixers. If we're being 100%, right? You could find ways to tell yourself, I don't feel strongly about the Sixers because blank. And there's fair reasons. The bench is thin. And Tobias Harris. But you could also feel that they could find ways to win and come out with victories because of Joel Embiid's dominance, because they have the MVP of the league, and they have the MVP league favor right now as you look at where the regular season is, that he is the betting favorite to win the whole thing. But you could find ways to do it. In terms of not being happy with the trade, that's stupid. No, see, this is dumb. We'll see what you say after the playoffs is a dumb comment, and here's why. Because now you're automatically assuming that staying the same would have won you the championship. That's what you're saying. Where the only way this is a good trade is if they win the NBA Finals. That's false. Because this is setting you up for a nice 2-3 year window. This team's not perfect. This is not a perfect team. But you're closer now than you were before. It doesn't mean you have it all, because there are question marks. But to say if you don't win a championship, that automatically means the move was dumb is an asinine, ridiculous, pathetic way of thinking. Because now you're saying that Andre Drummond and Seth Curry were the difference in you winning a championship or not. And that's foolish. That's an embarrassing thought. I swear the first 5 games, nobody was saying that it was a bad trade. Now you face some adversity and it's a bad trade because people aren't smart. It's not so much about the winning the championship thing, because I think we all watch this team and understand that there's deficiencies that might come back to bite them. They're not good in transition, although the postseason is a slower down pace than the regular season. They are problematic with perimeter defense, and they do allow some defensive boards. They have holes in their game. Getting James Harden, though, is better than what you had. You don't expect them to get out of the second round? Okay, that's fine. That's how you feel. That's fine. But you're telling me that with Andre Drummond and Seth Curry, you saw them getting out of the second round? That's my question to you in the chat. I want to talk to you, but your name is me. Me in the chat says you don't expect them to get out of the second round. So you're telling me with Seth Curry and Andre Drummond, you saw them getting out of the second round. Now that they made the move for James Harden, you don't see it anymore. That's a little crazy to me. I don't see it the same exact way at all. Our bench wasn't that good before the trade, and it's not good after the trade. We need some high-quality three-point shooting off the bench. I don't disagree with that statement, as I'm just reading the comments through here. Very good point, Broach. Thank you. Me says that there were other trades that could have been made. See, now you're reaching. Now you're just saying things. What trade could have been made? What trade would have been better than getting James Harden? Don't give me Halliburton. Don't give me Buddy Hield, because if you're going to go down that road, then you're not assessing the situation properly. And I already know you're not assessing the situation properly, so that wouldn't change my thought on how you feel about things. But you just saying they could have done something different without giving me real, legitimate options that actually made the team better than getting James Harden, then I'm sorry. You're just wrong. That's all. You're just wrong. $2 donation from Chris Sheehan. Broads, I'm loving the 2020 Bryce Harper hair. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, the lettuce is growing. The lettuce is getting crazy, and we're here for it. I don't know how much longer we got. I am going to have to trim it up a little bit for the wedding that's in July, but it's been a long time. I always wear it up, so I never see how long it is. I realized after the shower this morning, I wanted to keep it down to let it dry a little bit, and we're just letting it go. We're letting it kind of soak in right now. I love this lettuce. There's nothing like there's nothing like the long flow. It's a life-changing experience for sure. All right. With that, we're going to shut things down here. I want to thank everybody so much for hanging out with me this morning. I've had a blast. I've had a great time with you all. We got Philadelphia Phillies baseball coming up at 1. We got some conversations tonight that's going to occur in my brain. We have the March Madness starting back up as well. We got Claude Giroux and his Panthers debut. See, all right. Harrison Barnes and Halliburton would have been better than James Harden to this person in the chat. Thank you guys so much for listening to the show. Wow. See you guys later.